Anyway, put it on my phone so I could turn it on. That is the craziest thing that I've ever heard in my entire life. Boom, shakalaka, that's right. All right, it's time for the buckaroos to go upstairs. Easy. Yaya's going to be up there. But she might use some help if anybody wanted to go up there and hang out and keep them corralled. They might need some corralling today. All this cool weather. I know it's got everybody wound up. Right? I mean, I'm wound up. I mean, you can tell I'm wound up. Good morning. It's a glorious, glorious day. I know the weather's cool and it's muddy, and we was just talking earlier with a guy that said all you could do was drive around and talk about the work that you needed to do because it was so nasty and so it's aggravating because you can't do nothing even though there's lots that needs to be done. I know everybody has winter projects that you want to get done in the wintertime, but it's too wet. I know the feeling. There's lots of stuff I like to get done, but it's too wet. But I'm getting fired up already. Getting fired up already. I even got me a cup of water up here. Let's get started with a word of prayer. Dear Lord, I thank you for the day. I thank you for our time together this morning, Lord. I thank you for the cool weather. I thank you for the rain and the sunshine that's coming. Lord, I thank you for all the blessings that you give us each day, the ability to live, the ability to breathe, and the ability to serve you one more day. I thank you for it. Lord, I pray that today that you'll be here, that you'll guide my words, that you'll open our ears, open our hearts. Lord, so we don't be so prideful, maybe we won't be so hard-headed, that we'll listen to what you have to say to us today. I just thank you again for this time and each and every one here. In your name I pray. Amen. So, I heard a joke one time, and I'm not going to tell this joke because it's not really church appropriate. However, it had to do with this fellow that decided that he didn't want to live. He didn't want to die bedridden. He didn't want to fall apart sitting on the couch or sitting in his recliner after he retired. He wanted to slide in the grave sideways screaming, "This was a ride." That's how he wanted to go. He wanted to be completely used up, completely just falling apart because he was so busy and so full of life and had done so much in his life and just wore his body out completely. That's how he wanted to go. He wanted to go sliding into the grave sideways, screaming, "Man, it was a good ride." Right? I kind of feel that way sometimes, and I guess maybe sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just want to just kind of chill, and maybe everything won't hurt as bad. I know some of y'all probably have that same feeling some days. But in essence, that's how we need to live our lives for Christ, right? We need to be sliding into the grave sideways saying, "Lord, I have done everything that I could possibly do with everything that you gave me. Okay, I'm done. I have no energy, I have no anything left to pour out into this world that you gave me." This last couple of weeks, we've been checking cows on this place and that place and looking at that stuff. And there's some older cows in there, and they've been down and got one foot in the grave. I know nobody knows anybody. Y'all ain't never had any animals that had one foot in the grave, right? I mean, nobody, if you've ever had animals, he got 3 of them. Yeah. I mean, if you got animals, you got one that's got at least one. If you got a bunch of animals, you got more than one that's got one foot in the grave, and you can just see it. And it's coming any time, right? Well, sometimes we as people have one foot in the grave, and we don't know it. Sometimes, we're at the end of our life, and we don't know it, right? Because we're not promised tomorrow in any way, shape, or form. God forbid it, but something could happen away home from church today. Something could happen on the way to work tomorrow. Anything can happen any day. I mean, it could be the night in your sleep. Just stop breathing. Well, wouldn't that be great? Just stop breathing in your sleep. Not wake up. I don't want to go like that. I mean, it'd be all good and all. I mean, no pain, but man, I want to get bucked off a horse and break my neck or something, you know? I mean, at 90, right? I mean, come on. that'd be the way to go. I mean, I'd go doing what I loved. I'd go doing things that I wanted to be doing, right? But I also have this, I tell people all the time, and I've heard this from other people that are quite a bit older than me, and they look at me weird when I tell them this, and especially since I'm so young and vibrant and all, is that, you know, if I'd have known I was going to live this long, I'd have taken better care of my body. I think we probably all could say that. Growing up in the country, you tend to be a little rougher on your body than most of these kids that, you know, they're going to have arthritis in their thumbs from playing those deadgum video games, right? I'm going to have arthritis in every other part of my body. I mean, that's going to be the deal, right? But I don't want to go out of this world with a pristine body. I don't want to go out of this world having not used up what God's given me as talents and skills for Him, right? That's, you know, last week we talked about setting goals and setting goals for the new year, and then telling people about them, good friends that are going to hold you accountable to that, because what's the fastest way to not reach a goal? Well, that's easy. You don't tell nobody. You're going to set it. Because then nobody's there to say, hey, you're not on that track. You got off track. You're not on the track for this goal. You need to get back on track, right? You get accountability is what we're talking about. Well, if we're not in the process of our lives where we're using up everything we've got, and we don't have somebody there coaching us along, nudging us along, then we're not going to reach our goal. We're not going to be used up. We're not going to do all that we can do. Preach it, man. No, that's okay. Look, you ain't got to leave. That's fine. Whatever you want to do. It don't bother me a bit. I probably just embarrassed her, but that's all right. But, you know, our lives, we need to use our bodies up completely for God's service, for God's work. It's not just we're living through our life, you know, we're going through our life doing whatever the heck we want to do, you know, using up our bodies for fun, for playing, because, of course, that's what 90% of us have probably done. In fact, probably 100% of us have done that, used up our bodies and banged up our bodies for stuff that we wanted to do because it was fun. You know, riding crazy bucking horses and crazy barrel horses. But in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 6, this is Paul, and I believe this was in last week's sermon too, but I'm just going to touch on this just for a second from a different perspective. This is at the end of his letter to Timothy, the second letter to Timothy. Paul's body was completely used up. He says in here that, and I guess I'll just go ahead and read it. As for me, my life has already been poured out as an offering to God. The time of my death is near. When you pour something out, when your daddy told you to go take this 5-gallon bucket and full of feed and go pour it out for the calves or the cows or the horses or the pigs or the goats or whatever, what did you do? Did you just pour a little? I'm going to pour a little bit out and I'll bring it back to him. Was that acceptable? Was that okay? Did you just pour out just a little pile about that big? and that was okay? You brought it back to your daddy and he was happy with that? No. When he sent you out there with a bucket full of feed, he expected you to pour the whole dang thing out. All of it. Pour it out completely. Don't bring none back. Unless you was going to another pasture, right? Paul poured out his life for God's work. Completely. When he said poured out, he poured it out totally. There was none left. This was at a point in his life, he knew his death was it was coming up fast, in a hurry. He was about to be no more. He was encouraging Timothy in this whole letter, but at the end he said, my death is near. I have poured out everything that God's given me. All the skills, all the abilities, all the things that he's given me, I have used them up. Used them up. Can you pour out a bag of feed and then lay it on the ground, and then the next day you come back and that bag of feed is full again? No. It don't happen that way. As much as most of us would like to think it happens that way, and because it would save us a lot of money if we came back and that same bag was full again, we could get 4 or 5 feedings out of one bag instead of 4 or 5 bags per feeding, right? Well, it don't happen like that. Whenever you pour something out, it's done. It's over with. That's a wrap. Paul had done this in his life. He had poured out everything that he had, and his life was almost done. But he had done it for Christ. He had done it for God. He had done everything that God wanted him to do. Everything. Completely poured out. Now, I want to talk about our earthly bodies for a while, okay? And if anybody ever had a rental car or a rental piece of equipment? Anybody had one of those? I mean, that's probably a few. I've had one. They're really fun to have rental equipment or a rental car. Because how do you drive it? Like you stole it. That's how you drive a piece of rental equipment or a rental car, right? You drive it like you stole it. You would never do this to your own car because it would tear it up. But because it's rental and you're going to send that sucker back, you do everything short of totaling it, right? I mean, if you got, hoopty-doos on your driveway or whatever, you hit them suckers doing 90 miles an hour. Right? That's how you treat a rental vehicle. Right? I mean, there's no law that says that you got to do it that way, but everybody thinks that way because, this ain't mine. I'm just going to send it back. They're going to fix it. I gave them all this money to drive it however I want it. So, yeah. wide open, right? That's how you drive a rental vehicle, rental equipment. You just, if it's equipment and you're clearing something, you'll run over trees way bigger with that sucker than you would if you had your own. Right? Let's be honest, right? If I got my own, I'm going to ease around there. If I got a rental, I'm just going to go plow right through it. No big deal. If I get that sucker stuck, I'll just call something else to pull it out or, hey, your bush hogs in 4 or 5 pieces. I don't know what happened. Right? Got me. So what? I tried to run over a 6-inch tree. Come on. Or I'm sorry, your dozer's in the bottom of a pond. I didn't know it was soft. Just bailed right off in there. All right? Our bodies are rentals. Okay? Our bodies, our earthly bodies, the bodies that we have right now are rentals. They aren't permanent in any way, shape, or form. They're not permanent bodies. They're rentals. So if we look at our bodies as rentals, we need to be sliding in the grave sideways at the end of it. Right? We need to be using these suckers up the best way we can. We need to be doing everything that we can for God. Using up completely, pouring out completely ourselves to Him. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Look at 2 Corinthians chapter 5. I'm going to be blowing through these pretty fast. Chapter 5, verse 4. And we're going to be in 2 Corinthians chapter 5 the rest of the time. So you can just kind of open to there and chill, because we're just going to be going up and down from there. Our permanent bodies don't come until later. All right? Our permanent bodies, our bodies that we're going to have for eternity, are not going to come until after this body is completely used up and gone. All right? Which means when you die. So I don't know if you know this or not, but nobody has made it out of this earth alive. I mean, that's obvious, right? Some people don't know that. But nobody has made it out of this earth alive, this world. It ain't happening. 100% mortality rate. In the ranch world, that is a nightmare. In this world, it's the truth. It's the real deal, right? You're not going to make it out of this world alive. You are going to have a permanent body after this if you're a Christian. If you're a Christian, the body that you're going to have after this is going to be permanent. It's going to be a done deal. I like to think I'm going to be as good looking as I am now and not as good looking as I am when I'm like 80. But, it's okay. I mean, who am I to tell God what I want to look like? Chapter 5, verse 4, 2 Corinthians, chapter 5, verse 4. While we live in these earthly bodies, we groan and sigh. But it's not what we want. It's not that we want to die and get rid of these bodies that clothe us. Rather, we want to put on our new bodies so that these dying bodies will be swallowed up by life. Swallowed up by life. Our new bodies, our permanent bodies, won't be until we die. So our earthly bodies have to be swallowed up by life. And now, I'm going to give you a little gospel according to Josh right now, okay? So let's get that straight. This is the gospel according to Josh, which is not always accurate. But I prayed about this and I thought through this verse. And to me, when he talks about swallowed up by life, what does that mean? Used up, done. Life has consumed your body. Life has consumed the body that you have. And it's the same thing as Paul said when he said he had poured out his life completely. Same deal. All right? Used up totally. There's no life left. It is swallowed up your body. Done. Wore out, completely used up, done. There ain't nothing else you can do with it, right? If you tried one more thing, you just fall apart right there. I mean, just turn to dust or something. Kind of feel like that's what I'm going to do. But we should be swallowed up by life, completely used up by the time we get our new bodies. But a lot of times we want to, okay, we kind of get a little cautious when we get old, right? I'm not as young as I used to be. You hear that a lot? I say that a lot. I'm not as young as I used to be. Some of these colts I get on, I'm like, I don't know if I want to step on that today. Maybe after a couple of hours of running them around the round pen, I'll step on or something. I'm not as young as I used to be. I don't bounce anymore. When I hit the ground, it's more of a thud, right? I know nobody here can agree with that or have never done that. But, I'm not as young as I used to be, and that bounce turned into a thud a couple of years ago, and I have children to think about and a wife that doesn't really want to take care of me bedridden because I'm not a really good patient. But we should be using our body up for God, for Christ. Whatever that takes, whatever that means, we need to be using our bodies up for Christ completely. Pouring ourselves out totally. Look at verse 9 and 10. Why do we need to be doing that? Why do we need to be totally using ourselves up? Look at verse 9. So whether we are here in this body or away from this body, our goal is to please Him. For we must all stand before Christ to be judged. We will each receive whatever we deserve for the good or evil we have done in this earthly body. And in the Gospel according to Josh, it also says, or have not done. So it's not only what you've done, but what you hadn't done. What did He tell you to do and you didn't do it? Because you said, but Lord, I'm getting old. But Lord, I don't bounce like I used to. But Lord, my feelings are hurt right now. Is that using up what you got? Is that using up what He gave you? Whether your feelings are hurt, whether your body's hurt, whether you're limping around or got 3 legs or 2 arms. Well, you always got 2 arms. You ever had 3 legs? I had. Or if you're missing some, right? Our bodies aren't meant to last forever. Like I said, they're rentals. We just got them for a little while. A little bitty short amount of time compared to eternity, right? Eternity is, well, shoot, it's infinite. But our life on earth is measured. And compared to eternity, it's this big. It's this big, right? Use them up. They're just for life on this earth. Just for life on this earth. Use them up, but don't use them up just for you, because it's not going to get you anywhere in eternity, right? I'm not talking about living life for you. I'm not talking about using your body up, going to the bars or rodeoing just for you. Don't get me wrong. Rodeoing ain't bad. It ain't the devil. It can be, but it ain't. Or the things that you like to do, showing or whatever hobby, whatever thing you like to do, it doesn't mean it's bad. When you start making it all that you think about and all that you do, then it's bad. Because you're not using anything that God gave you, these talents and these skills, for Him. You're just using them for you. Bad. No. Not a good idea. Look at 5:1. And we're going to wrap this sucker up. For we know that when this earthly tent we live in is taken down, that is, when we die and leave this earthly body, we will have a house in heaven, an eternal body made for us by God Himself and not by human hands. So let's talk about tents for a minute. Everybody knows what a tent is, right? Everybody okay with that? Everybody understand that I'm talking about a tent? Everybody knows what a tent is? Have you ever put up a tent and left it up for a really long time? I mean like a really long time. I mean like a month. I'm not talking about a week, all right? I mean, you can live in a tent a week. But if you lived in a tent for a month, 2 months, 6 months, a year, by the time that year rolled around, that tent may not be doing so good for you. It may not be covering all of your sleeping quarters. It may have a couple of holes or rips, or especially if you got kids. If you got kids, it's going to be gone in a month. This is the way it is. They're going to tear everything up. It's going to be gone in a month. All right, this is what He's calling our bodies as we are now, here on earth. Right? It's like our rental car. We use that sucker up. Well, our tents will be used up. Because in the weather, in the strain of the wind and the rain, it's going to leak, and then nobody likes a leaky tent, but it happens. But the wind's going to blow, and it's going to put a little rip, and it's going to blow again. Rip's going to get bigger, and you're going to have a hurricane. You're going to have no tent. Tents fall apart over time. All right? They fall apart over time. A tent is not a permanent dwelling. I know some people that are less fortunate actually do live in tents, and that's a whole other story. I ain't going to get into that today. But a tent is not a permanent dwelling. A house, is a permanent dwelling, right? It's a permanent dwelling that you live in. I know we got some homeless people in here, and that's okay. But a house is a permanent dwelling. It's something that you live in if you keep it up all your life, right? But a tent, you can try your best. You can keep stitching that sucker back together every time it rips, but I'm here to tell you, it ain't going to be long, it's going to rip again. And if you ain't that good as a seamstress, it may rip before you get done. Reminds me of me. Tents are just to be lived in for a little bit. That's what he's equating our bodies here on earth. They're a dwelling that we just temporary. It's just for a minute that we're going to live here. If you take your whole life and how many times you actually use a tent in your whole life, that's about how much we live in our bodies here on earth. All right? It's itty bitty. It ain't nothing to it. Our life is short compared to eternity. If you don't believe me, ask God. He'll tell you. He might tell you faster than you want to know. But what I've talked about today is all about if you know Christ. If you have a relationship with God. You see, a lot of people think that Christianity or getting to heaven is all about religion. It's about following the law. It's about following the book. And I'm here to tell you that that's a crock. That's a bunch of junk. That's ridiculous. And if you believe that, I apologize. But I'm going to tell you here the truth of what it really means. It's about a relationship. It's about knowing the man. It's about knowing God, knowing what he did for you. That's what it's about. If you go down to verse 21, that same chapter, it says, "For God made Christ, who never sinned, to be the offering for our sin, so that we could be made right with God through Christ." So in essence, we messed up as a human race. God sent a perfect offering into this world to be just like us, except for the sin part, to live a perfect life and then die on a cross, a cruel, torturous death, so that we, messed up, screwed up, terrible people, could be made righteous, could be made right, could be made perfect in front of God. That's what he did because he loved us so much. Because we're that awesome to him. That's pretty cool, if you ask me. And so what are we giving him back? What are we giving him back? How are we showing him that we love him too? By saving our bodies, by saying, "Oh, I can't do that because I might use up my body. I might use up my body when I want to use it over here for this other thing, this thing that I want to do." I can't do that. I can't do that, God. I'm waiting on this rodeo or roping so I can tear my body up riding bucking bulls or something crazy, stupid like that. Fun though, right? But he wants us to use it for him because he loves us so much. And if we're going to show him that love, if we're going to show him that we love him back, don't you think we should be using up? We should be sliding in the grave sideways, jumping and screaming, "Man, God, I did everything that you wanted me to do. I poured out my life for you. I'm ready. I'm ready to go home. I'm ready to be done." We should want that. That's what we should want. Now, should is a big word, believe it or not. But it's a big word. But we should be doing that for him. Because we love him so much. Because, by golly, if it weren't for him loving us so much and giving us an opportunity to be right with him, we'd never make it to heaven. We'd never make it to heaven. We'd be going straight to hell, all of us. Because we aren't worthy. We're not righteous. We're not perfect in any way, shape, or form. We are screwed up, messed up people. And that's the truth. I don't know if you're here today and you know you have that relationship with God. But I'm here to tell you, you need it. You need it because you don't know what tomorrow holds. Let's pray. Lord, I thank you for the day. I thank you for an opportunity to come together and worship you, to give you praise and honor, to give you glory, Lord, that we can't ever give enough. Lord, you give us so many opportunities to serve you, and sometimes we pass those up. Sometimes we don't use ourselves as much as we should for you. So at the end of our life, we're not used up. We're not poured out our whole life for you. Lord, I pray this week that you'll show us the areas of our life. You'll point out places in our life that we can pour out our lives for you, that we can use up ourselves for you. Because if we play it safe, Lord, if we go through life and just not want you, not seek you, not try to give everything we've got to you, Lord, our life is it's worthless, especially to you. But Lord, I pray that you'll point those times out. If you're here today with your eyes closed and your head bowed, if you're here today and you don't know Christ and you're ready to pour out your life for Him, you're ready to give your life up, you can do that this morning. You can say this prayer after me. You can say it out loud. You can say it to yourself. This is a sinner's prayer. Dear Lord, I'm messed up. I'm a messed up person. I'm a sinful person. I want you to have my life. I want to thank you for sending your Son to die on the cross to set me free from sin and to make me right with you. I love you and I want to follow you. Amen.